It was 3 a.m., the sound of boots. A door kicked open. Vanessa Cole, jolted awake, found herself staring into the barrels of police rifles. They yelled, shoved, and pinned her to the cold floor, tearing through her home like a crime scene. But she wasn't the suspect they thought she was. She was a federal prosecutor, the same woman who'd been quietly investigating corruption inside their department. And in the next few minutes, those officers would realize they hadn't just broken into a home, they'd broken their own careers. Before the sirens and the shouting, Vanessa Cole lived a quiet, focused life. Her apartment in downtown Atlanta was small but spotless, walls lined with law books, a single framed photo of her graduation from Harvard Law, and a stack of sealed case files that could make or break careers. She wasn't just any lawyer. At 34, Vanessa had already made a name for herself as one of the youngest federal prosecutors in the district, known for her calm precision and for never backing down from a fight against injustice. But that fight came at a cost. For weeks, she'd been digging into something dark, a string of complaints about misconduct within the city's police department. Files had gone missing. Witnesses had gone silent. And now she was getting calls at odd hours, hang-ups in the middle of the night. A black SUV parked across her building, engine running but never moving. Still, Vanessa pressed on. She worked late, alone, the glow of her laptop the only light in the room. She'd promised herself one thing: if corruption was rooted inside the system, she'd pull it out, no matter who stood in the way. Then, on a quiet Friday night, she finally found it. A sealed report, buried under months of altered paperwork, linking several high-ranking officers to illegal raids, falsified warrants, and stolen evidence. She saved the files, sent them to a secure drive, and exhaled. But as she closed her laptop and turned off the light, she had no idea that the same officers she was investigating had just received a tip, one that would send them straight to her door at 3 a.m. It started with a crash. Glass shattered. A door splintered open under a single violent kick. Vanessa shot up from her bed, half asleep, disoriented, and before her mind could make sense of it, 6 shadows stormed into her apartment. Red dots from laser sights danced across her walls. Boots pounded against the wooden floor. Someone screamed, "Get down!" But she couldn't even tell from where she stumbled forward, hands raised, heart pounding so hard it felt like thunder in her chest. Before she could speak, a heavy boot slammed into her back, throwing her to the ground. Her cheek hit the cold floor tiles as metal cuffs snapped around her wrists. A knee pressed into her spine, making it hard to breathe. What's happening? She tried to shout, but her voice broke into silence. All she could hear was chaos. Drawers ripped open, papers thrown, furniture overturned. The smell of gun oil filled the air. In the next room, one of the officers kicked open her office door, the same one where she had been building the case file against them. He froze for a moment, staring at the stacks of legal documents, then barked, "We got something here." Another officer rushed in, yanking open cabinets. "Looks like she's hiding evidence," he muttered. None of them realized what they were looking at, the very evidence that proved their corruption. Vanessa's eyes darted to her laptop, the one sitting open on her desk. The screen still displayed the file, Operation Blue Veil, Internal Affairs Classified. But before she could say a word, an officer grabbed it, ripped out the drive, and bagged it as evidence. Her body trembled, not from fear anymore, but from fury. She had spent her career protecting the law, and now that same law had broken into her home. Name? One of them barked. Vanessa. Vanessa Cole, she gasped. Occupation? Her voice steadied. Federal Prosecutor. Department of Justice. The room froze. For a second, no one moved. The officer kneeling on her back slowly lifted his knee. The one holding the flashlight lowered it, his face turning pale beneath the harsh light. What did she just say? Another whispered. She said, "Prosecutor." The silence that followed was heavier than any noise before it. The realization began to sink in, and panic followed right behind. Someone had fed them false intel. They weren't raiding a suspect. They had just assaulted a federal officer. The commanding sergeant stepped forward, face drained of color. Uncuff her, now. But Vanessa didn't move. She lay there, eyes burning with rage, tears mixing with the dust on her face. Her walls were cracked, her home destroyed, her dignity violated, and still, she said nothing, because she knew this wasn't an accident. This was a message. A warning to back off. And as the officers stumbled out one by one, murmuring excuses and half-hearted apologies, Vanessa sat up slowly, breathing through the pain, somewhere deep down, through the humiliation and the anger. She made a silent vow. They came for the wrong woman. Morning light cut through the blinds, revealing a home still torn apart. Vanessa sat on the edge of her couch, wrists bruised, mind sharp. The rage from last night hadn't cooled. It had crystallized into focus. She replayed every sound, every voice, every badge number. And by the time the sun fully rose, she wasn't a victim anymore. She was a prosecutor preparing her case. By noon, Vanessa walked through the marble doors of the U.S. courthouse, wearing the same torn blouse, the same handcuff marks. The guards at the front hesitated, but when they saw her ID, their posture straightened. "Good morning, Miss Cole." Inside, the district attorney's meeting room fell silent as she entered. The very officers who raided her home were already there, summoned, pale and trembling. Their commanding sergeant looked like he hadn't slept. Vanessa set a folder on the table. "Operation Blue Veil," she said. Her voice was calm, steady, terrifyingly controlled. One of the men tried to speak. "Ma'am, there's been—" She cut him off. "Oh, I know exactly what there's been." She flipped the folder open. Photographs, body cam screenshots, time-stamped warrants, and falsified signatures. "You broke into a federal prosecutor's home without a warrant. You cuffed me, assaulted me, and destroyed classified evidence." The room went silent. Even the ceiling vent seemed to stop humming. Vanessa leaned in. "You thought you could silence the woman investigating your unit. You thought I was just another name on your list. But here's the thing." She locked eyes with the sergeant. "You raided the wrong door, and now I'm the one writing the report." One by one, the officers looked away. Their arrogance drained, their confidence gone. A senior official from Internal Affairs stood and said quietly, "Effective immediately, you're all suspended pending federal investigation." The sound of badges hitting the table echoed like thunder. Vanessa didn't smile. She didn't need to. As she walked out of the room, her heels clicking across marble, the same men who kicked down her door last night now stared at the floor. Justice, for once, was on her side. Outside, cameras flashed, and in that brief, blinding light, Vanessa Cole became more than a prosecutor. She became a symbol. A reminder that no badge, no power, no lie could silence the truth forever. Days later, the headline spread across every major outlet. Federal prosecutor, raided by corrupt officers, entire unit under investigation. Vanessa didn't celebrate. There were no smiles, no victory speeches, just quiet resolve. She walked through the ruins of her apartment one last time, collecting pieces of her life, a broken photo frame, a torn legal pad. A file labeled Justice. The door they shattered still hung crooked. But she left it that way, a reminder of what they tried to break. And what they COULDN single quotes T. In the weeks that followed, the investigation deepened. Body cam footage, lost. Warrants altered. Superiors, silent. But Vanessa didn't stop. She rebuilt the case from scratch, this time with the public watching. Every interview, every hearing, every press briefing brought her closer to exposing the rot that had festered for years. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every black woman who'd ever been mistaken for less, silenced or disrespected in her own home. When the indictments finally came down, 6 officers stood before the same justice system they once abused. Their faces drained, their voices trembling, and at the front of that courtroom, Vanessa Cole watched, not with revenge in her eyes, but with something deeper, accountability. The cameras flashed again. Reporters shouted questions. "Do you forgive them?" Vanessa paused, her gaze steady. "I don't need to forgive them," she said quietly. "I just need the system to remember, the law works both ways." The clip went viral. Millions watched. Thousands commented. But the message wasn't about views or fame, it was about awakening. Because Vanessa's story wasn't just hers. It was a mirror, reflecting a truth that too many still ignore. And as the screen faded to black, a single line echoed through the narration. She didn't knock on the system's door to be heard, they kicked it down. And she built it stronger. Fade out, silence. Then, the words appear on screen. How many more doors must break before justice truly enters?